Hey guys, it's Elena. Today we will be doing some very loose watercolor peonies in Procreate. And I was inspired to do this tutorial because I've actually got a peony bush in my backyard right now and it's just starting to bloom. So I really wanted to try and paint these. And it's very simple, not super advanced. And I hope that you enjoy it. And at the end of the video, I will be sharing a tip that will really help your watercolor pop. So be sure and stick around for that. We will be using my brand new watercolor brush set, and it's a paid set, and the purchase link is in the description below. However, if you do not have these brushes, you're very welcome to try any of the watercolor brushes that you do have as well in Procreate. Let's go ahead and get started. For this tutorial, I will go ahead and make a canvas that is 16 by 20 inches. And to add my paper texture layers, I'm going to make 3 layers. And the bottom layer is going to be the background paper. Then the top layer is going to be the paper overlay. And then this layer in the middle is going to be the drawing layer. So for the background paper, I'm going to be using this color palette called Watercolor Peonies, and this is available for free for my email subscribers. So the link for subscribing to my email list is down below, and then you will receive a link for the library where you can download this. So for the bottom layer of the paper, I'm going to choose this color here, and then making sure that I'm on the background paper layer, I will choose my Rough Watercolor Paper, and this is from the Amazing Watercolor folder. So I'm just going to fill the background with this paper. So now we've got this nice textured paper in the background. And on the paper overlay, I'm just going to select a different off-white color and my cold pressed watercolor paper brush, and fill this layer with this other texture. And I'm changing the blend mode to color burn so that this will show up on top of what I'm drawing in the middle here. So selecting my pink color and my standard round brush, I'm just going to start to draw some petals, the flower heads, with this pink brush, and it won't really look like a whole lot of variation like watercolor has at first, because I'm going to afterwards take some blender brushes and smoosh it all together like loose watercolor. Okay, so with that done, with the same brush, I'm going to add some dots in the middle. I'm choosing this darker color now that I have sort of added a little bit of this yellow in the middle. I'm just going to make some actual dots and some stems coming out of it. We've gone back to the lighter color now, and I'm just adding a few more stems here and there. And now I'm going to choose my green color, and I'm going to switch to my standard round textured brush and add a few leaves. And then after this, I'm just going to smush it all together with some blender brushes. And for these leaves, I'm just using the pressure, starting out without a lot and then increasing, coming back down to finish the leaf. Super simple. Sometimes the texture in this particular brush can be a little bit unpredictable, and if it comes out really light, I just go over top of it again, which helps with the unpredictable look of it. So I'm going to do some really big leaves here, and I'm just going to switch to my standard round brush again in order to make those something that we can use the blender brushes on instead of this one that has its own texture built in already. I'm just varying the pressure that I'm adding here so that the leaf is not uniform, all the same, you know, darkness, but so that it looks more like watercolor, varying that pressure. And I'm able to do this with the pressure because I have not lifted up my brush yet. So I'm still able to sort of modify what I've put down here until I lift that brush. Okay, so now I'm going to start to add a little bit of texture to the flowers and to these leaves that I just drew. So I'm going to start out with this one called Blooming Line, and choosing my same pink color, I'm just going to add a bit of, as if this was still wet, and I'm taking the paintbrush and adding more paint in here. That's what this is meant to look like. So I'm going to go with a large dark bloom in the same color and just keep adding some texture. I kind of want to make it look eventually like this, like there is paint pooling up in this bottom corner here, and then maybe also here. And you can start to blur the lines between the petals with this brush as well. And from here, I'm going to go to my different folder called Watercolor Blenders. And these brushes only blend what is already on the layer that you're using them on. They don't add anything new. They only blend what's there. So I'm using my wet on wet blender to just generally blur some of these lines and make it look more loose and watercolory. You can do some fun things with this blender brush by going from the outside in. You can do this with quite a few of the blender brushes actually, but if you want to make it look like there's kind of a bloom here where the water didn't really go in, you can use it like that. You can do it the opposite, make it bloom outward. just being fairly random with this. I'm going to go ahead and use this on the leaves as well, to just messy it up a bit. So I'm just using the same wet on wet blender brush to just kind of add some blooms to this to make it look like it's just had some water droplets added to it. So it probably just looks like I have drawn some stuff and then basically just erasing it again or blurring it all together. But I really feel like these kind of details are where it can look really realistic, like real life watercolor textures, because it's not a uniform. Watercolors are just not meant to be uniform and symmetrical. They're meant to be a little bit messy. At least that's my philosophy, so that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. So now I'm going to take this darker purple color and go back to my Amazing Watercolor folder here, and I'm going to grab my glazing, Edge and Blend Glazing. You know, actually I'm going to take the textured version, Edge and Blend Glazing Textured, in my darker purplish color, and just going to add a little bit of darkening here to really kind of accentuate that pooling effect. So it has dark edges as you put the glazing brush in, and then you can, within the same stroke, you can go and soften those edges. And that's what all the Edge and Blend brushes actually do. So the glazing brushes are good if you just want to add some layers, some dimension of color. So I'm softening the edges by letting up on the pressure. I think I'm just about done here, but I'm going to go back. I'm in my Amazing Watercolor folder. I'm going to select the salt, and then I'm going to double tap on the color wheel over by the white just to have white selected, and I'm going to add some salt textures on top of this. Not everywhere, but just in a few areas, especially the darker areas. I don't actually want a lot on this leaf. I'm just going to leave most of it as it is. Just a little bit of texture. And these ones up here already have texture that was built into the brush, so I'm going to leave them alone. And then as a final touch, I'm going to use my dark purple here and add just a bit of the light splatter. I'll do one more in this really light color here. One extra little tip that has come to me from Ben Thigh Creations on Instagram, and I'll put a link to their Instagram down in the description, but this tip really helps make your watercolor pop, and you can do it now at the end of your piece, or you could do it at the beginning as well. And the tip is basically just to change the blend mode of the drawing layer. So right now we've got an N right here, and this means it's normal blend mode. But if you change the blend mode, you can change it to either multiply here at the top or linear burn. And when you change it to, let's just look up close when it's on normal. So you can't really see the paper through it very much. You can see it more like on the really faded, thinned out areas. But when you change it to multiply, you can really see the paper underneath, the whole thing gets a little bit darker. So if this is a look that you like, I would encourage you to experiment with that. And then if you change it to linear burn, the whole thing gets even darker and crisper looking. So that is completely up to you. I think personally on this, I really like multiply. And you can do this before you even draw if you want to. I haven't done it this time, but next time I think I'm going to experiment with changing the blend mode on the drawing layer before even painting on it, because I really like how this looks. So thank you for that tip. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and let me know if you have any questions, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.